Hey, hi, welcome back. Or welcome if you're new here. My name is Laura. This is Blacklight Astrology. Today we're talking about the new moon in Leo, which is happening on July 24th, my dad's birthday. Thank you. I don't know where that accent came from, but there it was, 12:11 p.m. in the Pacific Northwest at least. So be mindful that you change that for your time and location on the planet. This is quite a new moon. Holy wow. New moon at 2 degrees of Leo. This new moon is opposite the planet Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. And to me, this speaks a great deal about the phenomenon we're having now where we're starting to see what we're doing to children in a whole new way because of the internet and the availability of information and things like family vloggers and we're seeing cross-culturally what what is happening with children in the world, what they need, how we're treating them in all kinds of different ways, and what's working and what's not. And this especially speaks to me of like the internet. Should they be on it? Should they have access to it? What are they accessing on it? Or should we expose them online to others? What's ethical, what's not? How about the money that child, YouTubers might be earning for their family? How does this work? So there's just so much analysis happening right now in that realm of children and their needs. I think about it in terms of the wars going on all over the world, and what's happening to children in certain areas. I think of the frustration of not being able to express ourselves fully. This also speaks to me about like the obvious one in the United States is the Epstein files. It's happening in Leo, and if you've had Leo placements or really any fixed sign placements that's Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, or Taurus, you know that for the last couple of years you've been getting attacked. Through Leo, we had in 2023, the summer of 2023, think back to like Barbie era, the Barbie movie. We had the Venus retrograde through the sign of Leo. And then just this past winter, we had the Mars retrograde that started at what, 4, 5, 6 degrees of Leo, somewhere in there, and went back into Cancer for a while there. So we've had quite a bit of review from both Venus and Mars, two of the personal planets, over the last couple of years in this realm of Leo. And you think back to those timelines, at least for Donald Trump in the United States, 2023 was when he was all up in arms about, oh, we're going to get the Epstein files and we're going to drain the swamp and turn everybody in and blah, blah. And then this past winter, he won the election here in the US. And now this Mercury retrograding over this space. And he's like, what files? There are no files. And here we have Pandora's box, which I left up just for funsies under this reading at 29 degrees of Leo. If you know, you know. Donald Trump's rising sign, his ascendant, is 29 degrees of Leo. And that ascendant is our outer persona. It is the lens through which we perceive the world and move through life. It's the way we face things in life. Um, it is a social mask. You'll hear that in pop astrology. It is not just a social mask, you guys. It's way more than that. But I found it fascinating. It only comes around here once every 4.5 years or so. So this new moon in Leo signature is getting sort of locked in, right? The new moon is where we seed our intentions for the next, yes, 2 weeks until the full moon, but it's really for the next 6 months. And if it's under an eclipse cycle, it's for the next 19 years. Yeah, there's a lot going on in a new moon cycle, a lot more than just new moon, full moon, new moon, full moon. There are much broader cycles being impacted here. So the fact that we've got this new moon signature with Pandora at 29 Leo right on his ascendant suggests that this energy, Pandora's box, is on his ascendant through this lunation cycle for the next couple of weeks, the next 6 months, etc. Because next year we've got Jupiter coming through the sign of Leo with a Mars and the South Node and a Mars retrograde that's starting in Virgo but going back into Leo. So there is more action to be seen in this area. And this Mercury retrograde and this new moon in Leo is sort of saying, whoa, let's just regroup. Let's just reflect for a minute on everything we learned. So think back in your own personal life to the summer of 2023 and what was happening there. And this is super helpful if you know your own chart. Find the Leo area of your chart and find that house and go see what that house is about. You can Google it and figure out what area of your life was coming up. See if you can reflect and match that up with the summer of 2023, Venus retrograde in Leo, what was happening. It was like the summer of celebrity breakups. Leo being celebrity and Venus retrograde being classic for those reviews on relationships. December 5th or so was the beginning of the Mars retrograde in the early degrees of Leo. You can reflect on that and see, because that's right up next to this new moon here. You can see what that was bringing up on what you were going back to reflect on in terms of anger or motivation or, your sense of drive or will. What was needing strength? What was frustrating you, aggravating you? What was motivating you or not back at that time? That was Mars retrograde, reflecting on those martial energies. So this Mercury retrograde is really taking us back and reviewing and starting to put all those puzzle pieces together. But the story's not done. I mean, the story's never done, right? When is it ever? But there's just, for the amount of action that we've seen in that Leo realm of the chart for the last couple of years, it's building up to something much bigger because the South Node is going to come through Leo. Oh, Lordy. Can we not? My favorite astrologer and I were talking about this the other day. She was like, do we really have to do the South Node in Leo? Yes, Alex, we do. Dear God. And then Mars retrograde in Leo. So super, super fun. We have much to look forward to, you guys. We are digging up the dirt in this Leo realm. So use this time wisely. Mercury retrograde is, it's just out of what I would call orb for the new moon. We've got the new moon at 2 degrees. Mercury retrograde under this lunation is at 13. It's just outside of the 10-degree orb I like, but sitting between is the asteroid Lucifer. Not literally like Lucifer the devil, but Lucifer in the birth chart or in the astrology. Lucifer in the chart suggests that there is sort of this, like we're being pulled by the force to draw up some toxic, dark, shadowy piece. It's usually something about the ego, not just because it's in Leo, but because Lucifer brings up ego issues in anything he touches. And he's bringing the dark side to light. But it can be the gift. Like Lucifer is the essence of something we need to do shadow work around. And it can almost be like a joy in bringing darkness to light, like a hobby. But it is the biblical fallen angel. And there is something about going against the status quo and getting carried away with our own self-importance. Lucifer is bringing the darkness to light at best. So this new moon in Leo is really suggesting, hey, not only are we opposite Pluto and getting a really big perspective on everything from kids on the internet to kids accessing the internet to like what a child needs to function healthily in society or how children become the adults in society and what does that mean? Power and this whole conversation on sex and sexual identity. There's a lot. But with Lucifer there, it's like, let's bring the darkness to light and face it, but it has to happen in ourselves. When it's the new moon, we're getting perspective from what we're seeing out in the sickness of society or the darkness of society. That the new moon is saying, I plant those seeds in here inside of my own self. Mars on the South Node in Virgo. This is one of the reasons that I haven't posted this video sooner. I've been gearing up for a while and I kept trying and preparing and getting, every time I set up, I was like, the lighting isn't right and I don't look good and this is bad and I'm gonna redo it and I probably recorded this 3 times already. Ugh. And it's Mercury retrograde and I'm so Gemini, so it's pulling on me and I'm saying everything wrong. That is Mars in Virgo on the South Node. Also, if you've been noticing a lot of the same old criticisms from within or without coming up, or a lot of strange or unexpected expectations that you have and you didn't realize how your expectations for things were kind of, making you dissatisfied or causing problems in whatever situation, or somebody else's expectations of you that you didn't realize that you weren't measuring up to, or you're beating yourself up because you think you're not measuring up to their expectations and like that's important to you. There's all these strange ways that Mars in Virgo on the South Node can come up and show us where we have been applying too much control or letting shame drive us or having, analysis paralysis or perfectionism that is stopping us from ever releasing the product or starting to begin with, things of that nature. Mars in Virgo on the South Node. Also, just a lot of worry and stress, like old patterns of worry and stress. A lot of people having some tummy issues this past week under this signature. Now, we're trying to use what's happening at the South Node at any given moment to launch us toward the North Node. The North Node is our Dharma, it's our path, it's our invitation forward. But under this lunation, we have something called Venus bending the nodes. And I kind of love this because she's right on my sun in Gemini at 22. Give me a little kiss right now, and I really need it. So thanks, Venus. Love you. She's my chart ruler. I love that girl. So she is squaring Mars and the South Node. She's squaring both of the nodes right now. This really perfected a day and a half ago or something as of recording this. This is this is the night of the new moon, actually. I'm recording this on Wednesday evening. So Venus has been exactly bending the nodes. And this is really saying that to get from the South Node to the North Node, we have to take this scenic route. We have to kind of move through Venus to get to the North Node. There's a complementary, it's a support of friction, like we have to take action to get there. That's what the squares are. But it stimulates growth, tremendous growth. So when we think of Venus bending the nodes, we're looping in experiences that sort of trigger a rush of, improved communication. More diplomatic consideration of another person's perspective is one way that I've heard and felt this myself, but heard it in my client stories this week. Needing to ask for financial support or some kind of resources and support, and there being some kind of awkward feeling around having to ask for it or having to have a hard discussion about resources, and needing to cultivate more compassion in the process to move forward. The emotions run high. Jupiter in Cancer is the ruler of the North Node here. So we're trying to get to the North Node at any given moment. Mars on the South Node is just saying that the energy of drive and anger and motivation, like the energy that we tap into to go and to do something, to act, that energy is just more prone to being driven by shame or to shame. It's nitpicky and naggy. It wants to get things done and it feels like it should, but it's shoulding itself all the time or shouldn'ting. And it is a perfectionist or a constant critic. And it's mean and it's got stress and worry and tummy issues. So what's going on with Mars in Virgo on the South Node? A lot of people I'm hearing getting fired, dogs behaving badly and issues with dogs coming up. Mars rules dogs, you guys, if you didn't know. So Mars on the South Node, not super fun, but what it's trying to help us with is to diminish the presence of something. It's trying to help us diminish a negative quality of that thing, something that is not serving or helping us evolve anymore. So if you think about Mars in Virgo as being driven by shame or fighting by, nitpicking or trying to demand that your expectations be met, especially without communicating what those are. High control tendencies and levels of criticism that are no longer helpful because they become mean and are never satisfied, instead of like mentorship and looking for areas of growth with kindness and nurturing and nourishing. But the dark side of Virgo can just be so like anal retentive, With Mars passing over the South Node, perhaps a lot of that has come up for you, or the fear of not doing or having or being enough. Old patterns of stressing and worrying, even if there's nothing to be stressed or worried about. Not that that's the case. I feel like everybody's got something to be stressed or worried about these days. I haven't heard anybody who's doing like super great lately. It's quite a ball out here. But Mars passing over the South Node is saying whatever that is for you, whatever that worry, that stress, that pattern that's like the nitpicky, naggy dark side of Virgo in your drive, time to look at that, time to perhaps let that shift a little bit. Examine some of those patterns and let them go. I know personally I've had to really talk myself through this transit and remind myself that I reject that shame that was embedded into me all my life every time, which is kind of constant for me, like driven by shame. I've had to notice the shame monsters come up, examine and dismantle them and be like, no, thank you, shame. But what could I do to grow from here? Or what small daily routines and daily steps could I implement so that I'm doing better in whatever areas? That has been my experience of Mars over the South Node, plus noticing all the times that I am just super stressed, super worried and fretting a lot of anxiety and feeling either paralyzed by that, which has happened a lot over the last week, or driven by that and which becomes being driven by fear, which doesn't become productive. It makes me just kind of not fun to be around. So this has been an opportunity to really look at those old patterns and diminish them. And this usually happens, by choice or by force when something passes over the South Node, or indeed the South Node passes over something in our own charts. You can be sure that you're going to be stripping something away. You're going to be examining it and setting it aside, but that means that you kind of have to get smacked in the face with some of the patterns that have been embedded at least for the last 20 years since the last time the South Node was there, or the last however long it's been since Mars was there, which is usually a couple years. So Mars on the South Node is trying to get us to leap toward the North Node in Pisces. The North Node in Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, which is exalted right now in the sign of Cancer. Glorious. We love it. We love a Cancer Jupiter. It's not ever all good or all bad. Jupiter in Cancer, though, does expand our sense of sensitivity, gives us the need to expand our sense of security in some way. For some people, Jupiter in Cancer can feel like, oh, it's expanding fear if kind of their baseline emotional state is a fierce state, or if they have a difficult time regulating themselves emotionally. I myself have struggled with this in my life. So Jupiter in Cancer, magnifying that energy of sensitivity and feeling into our own personal needs that spring up from the well within us. Jupiter can expand that, and that's not a fun experience for everybody. So we can't just be like, Jupiter in Cancer, it's the best. There's always shades of gray here, but Jupiter in Cancer is magnifying this tender emotional energy and the idea of security and what makes us secure. It's also very much about home and ancestry. There's a lot coming up about whose land is this? Whose home is this? Who was here first? Who belongs here? Jupiter in Cancer. And of course, Cancer is ruled by the moon, so we have to hop on over to this little stellium in Leo, the sun and moon, and at least Mercury, and we can count Lucifer in there too, the fallen angel, to understand the emotional energy being expanded. It's very interested in protection. It can be very driven by ego and pride if we're not careful. Venus bending the nodes. I don't know. I hear other astrologers saying really sweet things about it. I have not personally felt that sweetness. There is this sense of, okay, here's what I felt. I have felt a little bit of a boost in my ability to change perspectives. With Uranus in Gemini, I'm starting to notice where I get stuck. My Mercury is super sticky, you guys, 29 degrees of Taurus. Drop your Mercury placement in the comments below and let me know how Uranus in Gemini is showing you about that placement. Like, what are you learning about your Mercury placement from Uranus in Gemini? I'd love to know. Because, wow, I mean, Uranus just went over my Mercury. It's in these last degrees of Taurus, right up next to, it's the sign before Gemini. But now that Uranus is properly in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, all of us are getting rattled mentally and getting this new level of awareness. And like metacognition is kind of becoming a more natural experience for people. And yeah, I am noticing where I get stuck. Holy cow. I'm noticing with Venus bending the nodes, Venus in Gemini, that I am learning through relationship and conflict within it, Mars squaring Venus, uh, how to get unstuck and shift my perspective. It's pretty wild. Pretty big lessons. One of the other things I wanted to say about this new moon signature is that this Venus square Mars is something we can really track and pay attention to. The synodic cycle of Venus and Mars always speak to evolution through relationship, and this is the final waning square before they become conjunct again. Oh, is it in January or February of next year? It'll actually be a Mars Cazimi, in Capricorn, an exalted Mars Cazimi. If you know, you know. Holy hell, yes. The next time they come together. And they were in Capricorn the last time they came together too, but let's take a look at this actually. So I'm going to pull up the current chart, which is on the outer ring. I'm going to take it back to the last time that Mars and Venus were together. There they are in Aquarius. And they were actually, didn't they do it together in Capricorn? Didn't they do it together in Capricorn? What am I saying? Nope, they slipped just into Aquarius just before. Oh, right. I remember that. All right, so if I take away the Leo new moon chart here, now we're just looking at the last conjunction of Venus and Mars. And they had just crossed over Pluto together for the first time in Aquarius, and they were opposite the moon actually on the day that I've landed. February 21st of 2024, Mars and Venus were conjunct in Aquarius. And we take it forward a few months, and all of a sudden we get Mars square Venus in Virgo and Gemini. So here we have Mars. It was when Mars was with Jupiter expanding it. What was that? August. And then Venus at 21 degrees of Virgo. So a lot of conflict there. I remember that. I was visiting my best friend in Philly. We had a little gruff little spat. We were two Mars and Gemini having a little bickering. It's all right. We worked through it. So that was the Mars square Venus, which often does bring up a little conflict. So that was August of 2024. So the conjunction, the start of the synodic cycle of Mars Venus that was talking about relationship evolution, was in February 21st, 2024. The first waxing square was Mars in Gemini, Venus in Virgo, and that was in August of 2024. Then we had the opposition between the two, which came about when Venus got into Aquarius. That was approaching, yeah, that's right. It was right as Mars was going retrograde. It was like a few days after. This was December 11th, where Mars retrograde in Leo was opposite Venus in Aquarius, the earliest degrees. So that was December of this past year. Think back to your relationships. February 21st, August 21st-ish, and December 11th of 2024. And then finally, we get to what's happening now, and we have this Mars square Venus, which happens to be with the nodes of fate. So this is, you know, an interesting thing to examine no matter what. Venus square Mars, every couple of years, you can track this synodic cycle and see where it's going. But it's very significant under this lunation because of its relationship to the nodes of fate, the lunar nodes, the nodes of the moon, which, if you don't know, in astrology, the nodes of the moon are where the eclipses happen. They are our trajectory through these lessons of the chart right now, leading us into Pisces. More compassion, more peace, more trust. Trust fall 2025. You feel it? This is quite a new moon. It's potent, it's deep, it's sensitive. It is really speaking to each of us on a very personal, individual level about bringing our inner child out and letting it speak, letting it play, letting it be seen, even when it's not perfect, even when it's really messy. Like still in my head, as I make this video, I'm like, stop rambling about this, Laura. Don't do that. Don't, you know, I am a cult survivor who is still trying to get a clear sense of self after spending a life of trying to be something or someone that somebody else wanted me to be, which is incredibly destructive. But I feel too messy and I feel unpolished to do this video and put it out there. Too damn bad, so says this Leo new moon. It's saying, get your ass up and start doing the thing, start practicing doing the thing that's going to build you into the you that you want to be from here moving forward. Because for all of us, Saturn and Neptune in Aries together, first time in our lives that this is happening. And this is just a glimpse right now, you guys. This is temporary. And then Saturn and Neptune in a couple months are going to go back into Pisces for a little while. And we're just getting a glimpse of the dream of the new self, but then Saturn and Neptune will arrive at the start point of Aries, at that 0 degree of Aries in the spring, which has, I don't know if that's ever happened before, those two planets at the very first degree of the entire zodiac. This is a fresh start for all of us. And in my opinion, this basket of support right here that's really going to get locked in at the end of the summer of 2026, sorry, worldwide, in August of 2026, Jupiter is going to pop on over to where this new moon is happening now. And it's going to finish off this great basket of support that has long been foretold to be a turning point for humanity, be very at least supportive because all the outer planets are involved. Right now, the new moon is there and Jupiter's kind of off to the side, increasing sensitivity and spiritual connection and empathy and emotion and the need for security. We've got this basket of support being kind of whispered about under this new moon, or kind of being felt but not really utilized yet. It's just a glimpse. Uranus is over here on one corner of the basket. Pluto is down here on the other quarter. So you can see the basket. See how it's on its side? Jupiter is going to pop over to where this new moon is. And when that happens, August 2026-ish, as the nodes shift into Aquarius and Leo, that is when everything starts to really shift for the better. Or that's the hope. That's the hope. So we're getting this glimpse right now of the dream of what we want to put in our baskets, essentially. What do we want to build? And if we start now, then when we have some of those reflective periods that come back through this fall and winter, or how shall I say it, the second half of 2025 and the first few months of 2026 are going to be a little like, oh, let's go back and reflect on some of that over these last few years, where we've been. When that happens, then we get to the spring, or we get to April, May, June of next year, July of next year, August of 2026. That is when we can actually put things in this basket and start to use it as a tool to help everyone move forward. That's a lot to unpack, but that is kind of the framing that I'm holding for it. That's the hope that I'm holding in this astrology as it evolves. Okay, friends, this is such an intense new moon. Maybe not for everybody. Let me know how you're feeling it in the comments. I know I mean, it is right on my moon. It is hitting. It's hitting hard. Thank you, Venus, for bending the nodes. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for watching and being part of this channel. It's been so cool to make a few videos and get my first 100 subscribers, so I really appreciate you all being a part of that. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with somebody you think might enjoy it as well. And I will be back with more quite soon. Thanks so much, guys. If you want to book a private reading with me, you can visit my website, black-light-astrology.com. I'm also on Instagram under black_light_astrology, and I do a lot of astrology over there. Thanks so much, guys. Happy new moon.